Remember the first kind of conflict we had?
When? Which time?
Oh,
yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are pumped to be back with you again.
Yeah.
Had a little bit of a hiatus, as you can tell, maybe from the background. We moved.
Moved again. I feel like every video we're like, hey, we moved. But guys,
life update.
This is a great news, is we are actually in a contract on this place. So we are in a lease, waiting for our next place to be built. But that is going to be at least a year from now.
Yeah. So we have a home. This is where we'll be filming. We got the cool wall and chairs. So let us know what you think about the wallpaper. We're going to do some more stuff to liven it up. But this is our official recording spot. So we'll be having conversations way more often now. Yeah,
and we're going to be jumping in a lot more, as Christian just said. So please make sure to leave us some comments. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about. Yeah. But today we have a very exciting conversation that we're going to talk about.
Always exciting.
It's very exciting. But the thing that we think is going to be really beneficial, and it's going to go and help people in all areas, regardless if you're in your first year of marriage or not. But we're going to talk about three things that we found super helpful and beneficial within the first year of marriage.
The first year can be the trickiest if you don't do it well. And we found these were 3 tips that we learned, didn't do perfectly at first, but we learned that really helped us. So we want to make sure that you have them.
Yeah. So number 1, I think this is the biggest one, and this is for across the board within marriage, is
tell your wife she's beautiful.
Yes, that is it too. Yes. It sounded like I was going to say communion too, since you cut me off. But yes, telling your wife that she's beautiful. I've done that almost every single day, I think, of our marriage, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what you're saying. The real tip, number 1, is communication.
Communication. Yes. Communication is absolutely key. I think from a guy's perspective, this was something that I had to navigate and really grow in and learn. Especially it's funny because the Bible talks about this. The Bible says that it says husbands. It does not talk to the wives specifically. It says husbands, dwell with your wife with understanding. And I think that understanding is actually understanding how to communicate, and not communicate in terms of hey, let me tell you what I'm thinking, but also communicate in the terms of being able to listen, being able to process and really hear them out. I think that was one of the biggest things that we had to kind of we're still working on. Of course, we're not communication majors. We neither of us graduated with that, but
I did graduate.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yes, you did. See, communication would have been great. I thought you did journalism. So
that's the school.
Is that the same thing? All right, amazing. So now we know.
Communication. See, we're still learning.
Yes.
It's always. I think that's what's really fun, is you always get better. And it's not to this point, you go on dates, and there's the idea, you go on so many dates, you run out of things to talk about, but it's never the case in marriage. You're always changing, you're always growing together. And actually, I love that you pointed that out for guys, but girls, we have to work on it too. I mean, we come to the table maybe overly communicating or not communicating the right way or the right things. For Arden, I thought he could just read my mind and hear through the plethora of information I gave him, but I had to actually learn, what do I feel, what's important for us, not just me, and how does our communication lend itself as a tool for that. So I would say see communication as a tool that you're always sharpening.
I think this is actually kind of plays into this, but when we were getting on the plane to head to St. Lucia on our honeymoon, there was a flight attendant, and she said something, and she was like, hey, don't fight over the little stuff. And it's really interesting because I think communication has gotten us to a place where the little stuff does not bother us because we know how to communicate through it. It's not like there's something small that popped up and one of us just shuts down. No, we've been able to, if something comes up that's actually bothering us, or if something comes up that maybe is not a big thing at all, we're able to, either be like, hey, don't sweat it. Love covers a multitude of sins kind of thing. But we're also able to...
Trash.
Yeah, exactly. Trash has been piling up for a little bit. But we're also able to communicate in a way that it does not become a big thing. A small thing does not become a big thing.
Yeah, and I think there's different levels and there's different waves for communication, and you learn that, of course, by growing with someone. Even if you're watching this and you're thinking, how can I be a better friend? How can I be a better sibling? It's just knowing how to communicate. And maybe we'll do another video on what that looks like in depth. So tip number 2 would be to fight for each other instead of against each other. This was, I think, the very first thing we came up against. Actually, on our honeymoon. Remember the first kind of conflict we had?
When? Which time? Oh, yeah.
What we realized, especially in that first year of marriage, is you're going from doing life virtually independent for X amount of years, and then you're thrusted into this atmosphere of we are doing life side by side. We're doing things for each other's benefit instead of your own.
It's kind of like that Navy SEAL understanding is I think what the Navy SEALs, what they've done, and they've done this so well, is that no man, a part of a Navy SEAL group, actually watches after their own back. They say they actually watch out for all of their other team members' backs. And the reasons being is because they said, if I just focus in on myself and I watch my own back, I only have one person watching my own back. And he said, but when I have a whole team around me that is watching out for my needs, for myself, and watching my back, then I have 23 other men that are a part of my team, men and women that are going to be watching my back. And I think, yes, there is only two people in a marriage, but I think this applies within a marriage because you're looking at each other not for, okay, well, the lens of myself and how does this apply to myself? How does this, like, oh no, I need to argue and I need to fight for this because,
right.
Exactly, because it's going to benefit me in the long run. It's like, no, how is this actually going to benefit and affect my spouse?
Yes.
I think us as a whole. There you go. Boom. But I think there was an argument that we had that was a reoccurring argument in the beginning stages of our marriage, and it was something that Christian was trying to communicate her feelings to me on, that I kept seeing, well, in my thinking, it's not that big of a deal, but then when I saw it through the lens of what it was doing to our relationship and to our marriage, I saw it as not of, hey, I need to defend my right, but hey, I need to protect my marriage. And I think that's where we can come into kind of a misalignment, is that too many times we're trying to fight and argue with the other person rather than fight and argue with the actual problem, the actual issue.
I love that analogy too, because it's so true. It's almost like a multiplication factor. Because if you're thinking about it, you go from the Navy SEAL analogy, you go from watching one back to 7. That can feel a little overwhelming. But what's really happening is instead of laser focusing on one area, your scope widens. So you actually see more of what's coming in. You see more protection. There's more freedom because there is this covering. And that's kind of what happens when you fight for each other. It's no longer, well, how does this affect me? Or just how does it affect him? But when you think, how does this affect us, our future children, our family? Like, if we're fighting, we're not our best together, we're not our best individually. Like, it's a multiplication factor that when you see, okay, what is the bigger picture here? Like, you open yourself up to more freedom and more protection. And it's funny because we came out of that issue or that conflict, and like there is so much more freedom now, and it's not a problem, not because one of us was right, but because we worked to overcome it together. Yeah.
Number 3, the third tip that would help you in your first year of marriage and just continuing through your marriage is have a vision for your marriage. And I think this is something that you should actually do in the very beginning, or even if you are married right now and you don't have a vision for your marriage, think about a vision. Because here's the thing, is that when you're talking about terms of communication, you're talking about fighting for something, you've got to know what you are fighting for and what you are communicating to get to. And I think this has been something that we've had to discover even working together, is that there's times where I have been like, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do this and this, and I've not communicated the vision, and Christian can get behind it, and she's like, wait a minute, but I don't really understand what this is for. And that can cause a sense of tension because there's a lack of clarity there. And so we don't know what the greater cause is, what the greater good is, the whole purpose behind why we're doing this. So taking some time, whether it's just sitting down and writing out something that you want to see for your marriage, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what do you want to see for your kids?
I remember your parents talking about that, how they first did it in a Chinese restaurant or something together when they were first married. And part of that's grown into where they are now, but they've continued to pour vision into it. And so I'm a dreamer. I love to dream. I never think you end up worse. You can only end up better. So take time with your spouse. I mean, if you're about to be married or if you are married already, and just continue to dream or start dreaming together and see how it widens your horizons and sets you on the right path.
Well, I hope these tips have been helpful for you guys. These have been just 3 simple things that have really helped us in our marriage just across the board, but it was very, very crucial to build that foundation in the first year of our marriage and get these things well established. So yes, there is many more tips that we could include that goes into a marriage, but we think these are 3 things that are going to help kickstart you, get you on the right foot as you're going forward.
So let us know which one of the 3 were your favorites, or if you have found any that you found helpful, share them with everyone else in the comments. But always, gotta subscribe so you don't miss the next video. See you next time.